Okay. Good evening to all of you. Today, we will talk about how to approach a vestibular rehabilitation exercises. So, the contents of these presentations are first, we will see what is adaptive plasticity and what is compensation, what are the mechanisms and the circuitry behind it. Second, we will talk about how to approach a elderly patient of vertigo. Third, we will see how to use the BNG system for vestibular rehab exercises. So the first part, the adaptive plasticity, will be little bit boring, but I will make sure that it is easily understood. So just be with me and let's start. So the first question which comes to our mind is why the name is vestibular rehabilitation? Why not body rehabilitation or trunk rehabilitation? So as we know that our balance is mainly governed by three things. First one is the inner ear, that is the vestibular system. Second is our eyes or the vision. And third is the proprioception. So out of all these three, the most important is the vestibular system. And we will see how the vestibular system helps us to maintain the balance. So the first thing which comes to my mind is vestibulo-ocular reflex. So I will not go into detail of vestibulo-ocular reflex, but we will see what is exactly the vestibulo-ocular reflex. So whenever you are fixating on a target and you are moving your head to the right side, the eyes should move to the left side with equal and opposite velocity to maintain the gaze. It is very essential to stabilize the vision. So VOR main function is to stabilize the vision and to prevent retinal slip. To prevent the retinal slip, eyes have to move in the exact opposite direction with the exact velocity as of the head velocity. And VOR can work up to 360 degrees per second. That is very huge. And the frequency is also very high and it reaches up to 25 hertz. So the VOR performance is mainly judged by the gain in the reflex and its phase. The phase is between the eye and the head velocity. So what are the requirements for a proper VOR? The first requirement is intact vestibular system. The second is visual feedback because we are asking the patient to fixate on a particular target. Third and most important is intact flocculus and paraflocculus. Fourth one is the central connections between brainstem, cerebellum, inner ear. So for different pathologicals and other physiological changes, the VOR has to be modified. And how it is modified, we will see in the next slides. So let us assume that a patient is having a vestibular insult. What will happen? The VOR will be defective on that particular side. So the brain actually monitors the error like retinal slip and it also changes the neuronal circuitry. And this is done in real time situation. So this is exactly known as adaptive plasticity of the vestibular system. So it has two parts. The first one is the motor learning, which is the basis of vestibular rehab training also. It starts within hours and can take days. Second one is the compensation for imbalance. It starts within hour. So what we can derive from this slide is we have to start the vestibular rehab exercises as soon as possible. So coming to signal flow, that how VOR is modified. So we know that there are high head velocity, eye velocity, and retinal images are required. So head velocity is encoded by the both vestibular nerves. Eye velocity is encoded by reticular formation, and nucleus of optic tract take the information for the retinal image. They eventually send the signals to flocculus and ventral paraflocculus area, which in turn gather the information, modifies it, and send it to vestibular nucleus. So this is the flow of the vestibular system. So we have to see that the most important point here is the flocculus and paraflocculus area. Don't remember anything, don't memorize anything, just see the flow. So what happens in the vestibular nuclei? Vestibular nuclei has two kinds of cells. These are known as eye head cells. And eye head cells are of two types. One is ipsilateral eye head cells, and the other one is contralateral eye head cells. So we will not go into detail, but what is the function of contralateral eye head cell is very important. So when I'm turning my head to the right side, my eyes should move to the left side, correct? So if we see our right eye, the right eye should move to the left side. So my medial rectus of the right eye should contract, and simultaneously my lateral rectus of the right eye should be inhibited. So this particular function is done by these contralateral eye head cells. So it is responsible for inhibiting the ipsilateral lateral rectus muscle and stimulating the ipsilateral medial rectus. So coming to rules of motor learning, there are basically three rules. First one is we have to have an intact flocculus, and removal of this flocculus will abolish the modification of VOR as we have seen in the signal flow slide. Second one is the time course. We have to be very specific that the time should be given to the patient for doing a vestibular rehab exercises, and eventually the adaptive plasticity will also enhance. And third thing which we noticed was visual input and head or eye movement, because in the signal flow we saw that the head movement is encoded by vestibular nerve. We also need the retinal signals. So if the movement of head and retinal slip are in the same direction, then gain has to be decreased. So that needs to be there. So to clinically, if we say this, if a patient comes to you with an infarct of flocculus or the inferior part of cerebellum, then the VOR modulation will not work, or the vestibular rehab will not work sufficiently because it is required for the modulation. Second thing is, it is the most common cause of failure of VRT. The failure happens because we prescribe that we tear up the paper and we tell the patients, you take this paper and you do all the exercises. The patient will only do it for 3 to 5 days. But as we know that we have to do vestibular rehab exercises for a quite period of time. That is for the memory retention, which I will talk eventually later. Third scenario is a patient comes to you and he tells that I am having vertigo and giddiness. And in the home, what he will do, he will just lie down. He will not move his head. He will not move his eyes. He thinks that every time he will move, he will get dizzy. So it is a wrong perception. To start a vestibular rehab and to start the modulation of BOR, you have to do, you have to give visual inputs by movement of eyes, and you have to do movement of head also. So coming to the sites of motor learning. So basically there are two sites. First one is the cerebellar learning or the cerebellar site. Second one is the brainstem hypothesis. So we'll see what is the cerebellar model. So whenever uh, there is a retinal slip, or let us assume that a patient is having right-sided vestibular neuritis. So that side VOR is decreased, or we can see some corrective saccades. So inferior olive actually monitors the retinal slip via climbing fibers. It sends that signal to our hero, that is flocculus and ventral paraflocculus area, which eventually modifies the synaptic efficacy and eventually gives the output to vestibular nucleus via Purkinje cells. So here also we can see that flocculus area is the main part which is actually doing some work for modulation of the synapses and to modulate the VOR system. So eventually the vestibular nucleus will get a modified vestibular gain. Now coming to brainstem model, flocculus also have a different type of neurons, which is gaze velocity Purkinje neurons. They actually monitors the head velocity separately and eye velocity signal separately, and they judge the output. So if the VOR is normal, that means the head velocity and the eye velocity are equal and in opposite direction. So eventually they cancel, and the gaze velocity output is zero. So there is no modulation done by the gaze velocity Purkinje neurons. And this signal is transferred to the vestibular nucleus. So in total, what we have studied is, don't memorize the names. Just you have to focus on, there is cerebellum, there is flocculus, paraflocculus area, and it eventually sends the signal to the vestibular nucleus. And the most essential criteria for a perfect vestibular rehab therapy or adaptive plasticity or neuronal plasticity is vision. Vision should be intact. Flocculus area should be intact. The the head velocity, the head should move actually. So now coming to the specific nature, the VOR inputs are actually somebody else's monitor. Hello, hello.
You can go ahead, sir. No issues.
No, no, no. Somebody has closed my slides.
No, no, no. You can go back. Nothing.
So we were talking about specific nature. So we can see that the total VOR is dependent on three major parts. First one is the cerebellum, second one is the brainstem, and third one is the visual inputs. The vestibular inputs via cerebellum and brainstem are of very high frequency. Uh, Srihasha, you want to take the control from here?
No, no, no. You can go ahead.
Okay, okay. So the vestibular inputs via cerebellum and brainstem are actually very fast and are of very high frequency. And visual input, on the other hand, are very slow. So this leads to a frequency specific changes in the VOR. So now we can also understand that if we are only telling the patient to look by their eyes upside and downside and right and left, we are actually doing a therapy for a low frequency. But if the lesion is in the vestibular system, we have to train him for high frequency exercises, and we have to increase the cerebellum and brainstem inputs. So that is a point to be taken here. Now coming to vestibular rehab therapy. We all know Cooksey-Cawthon exercises, but we should be more specific in giving exercises as we have seen in the early slides. So we should arrive at a proper diagnosis. We should identify the lesion. Then only we should go for a specific protocol for that particular patient. So we all know about this Cooksey-Cawthon exercises, so I will skip this. So now we will start the vestibular rehab for specific disorders. So let us take an example of imbalance in elderly. So let us imagine that what a 75-year-old undergoes with respect to his balance. Okay, so I will give you a task. You have to just close your eyes and imagine. I will give you 4 situations and you have to just tell me yes or no, or hard or easy. Okay, so imagine that you are 15-year-old and then you are in 4 different situations. Just let me know in the chat that is it easy or is it hard. Okay, so first situation is you are standing at a shop buying something. You are 15-year-old and somebody gives a slow push to you. what will happen? So you will move a little bit forward and then you will regain your position. So you will not fall. And second scenario is, imagine that you are actually standing on a motorcycle. So this is a very difficult situation for balance. So what you will do, you will stretch out your arms. You will sometimes you will bend forward and sometimes you will bend backwards. Okay. And third situation is, imagine that you are jumping from the bike, standing bike, you are jumping, and the moment your feet touches the ground, your knees are flexed, and eventually you got up like a spring. So I'm so sorry, somebody's taking over my screen. Okay. So the fourth situation is, if somebody, if you are walking, you are standing in a bus and somebody pushed you really hard. So what will happen is, you will eventually take few steps and then you will look backwards and you will scold that particular man. So these all four situations are actually our automatic inherited system to maintain the balance. So the first situation was when somebody pushed you slowly from backwards. So this is known as ankle method. So you just leaned forward. I'm so sorry, 1 minute. You just leaned forward and you regained your balance. Second thing is, the second situation is when you are standing on the bike and you were feeling very uncomfortable and your shoulders are moving to the front and then again to the back situation. Shriyasha boss, Shriyasha boss.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, somebody's Shruti Jain is requesting remote control again and again and again. They are interrupting me.
Go ahead, sir. I'll take.
Okay, okay. So the in the second situation when you were standing on the bike, you were actually feeling very difficult to maintain your balance. That was, and if you maintained your balance, that was due to hip method. So this is the inherited methods. These are the protocols which our body automatically follows to maintain the balance. And the third one is the suspensory method, in which you will, once your hands are touching, once your once your feet are touching the ground, your knees will flex, and eventually you will stand up. So this is the suspensory step. The fourth one is when somebody pushed you from behind, and you have to take few steps to maintain your balance. That is known as stepping method. So imagine, if you are a 15-year-old, this is all easy. But imagine what if you are 75 plus. Imagine what will be the difficulty level for a 75-year-old man. So the most common thing which we can actually understand is, the vestibular system should be intact, the visual system should be intact, the proprioception should be intact, and the muscle strength should be there. All the muscles which are controlling the ankle, the hips, the thighs, they have to be good. The strength should be better. So now we will talk about the dynamic equilibrium. So take an example that right now you are sitting in the bedroom and somebody gives a knock on the door. So what you will do, you will get up, you will open the bedroom door, then you will go through the table, the chairs, and then you will open the front door. So the what is happening inside the brain? So the brain actually, it the moment you think of a knock or you hear a knock, the brain starts working. So there is immediate reflexes which will initiate contraction of some muscles and relaxation of some muscles. So the moment you going think of the knock on the door,
Maybe little loud.
yeah. So the moment you think about the knock, your brain will send the signals to different sets of muscle. Some muscles will contract and some muscles will relax. So ankle muscles, thigh muscles, trunk muscles, all these muscles, including the sensory components also, they will generate a body movement. And that after the generation of that body movement, you have to get the signals from vision, vestibular system, and sensation also, so that you can actually see that there is a door, there is a knob here, there is a chair on this side, there is a table on this side, and I have to avoid the table, and eventually I will open the door. So just opening the knob, opening the door, the central nervous system is working so hard to make you stand erect and to maintain your balance. So this is known as the dynamic equilibrium. So we will move forward. So if your patient is 75-year-old and you are discussing about the pathology, you have to also consider certain things like biological risk factors, like the age of the patient, the gender of the patient, the race of the patient. Does he have arthritis? Does he have osteoporosis? Does he have cognitive dysfunction? Cognitive dysfunction is very hard to improve. Very hard. It is very hard to give vestibular rehab training to these kinds of patients. We have to also see the building design of their homes. You have to see the floors, slippery floors and stairs, the narrow stairs. You have to also see the lighting. You have to ask the questions that is the lighting sufficient in your on the way to the bathroom, and you have to also see whether they are taking multiple medications or not. Are they taking alcohol? So recently we saw a patient and we gave him vestibular rehab exercises, and after 15 days he told, doctor, I'm not feeling well. I think it is not working. So I just asked him, are you taking alcohol? So he told, uh, 4 shots vodka काम मेरा रोज का. So that kind of attitude we have to prevent. So we have to actually ask the patients each and everything to start the vestibular rehab therapy. So now the patient is sitting in front of you. This is the first session, and you decided that we will give vestibular rehab training to this patient. So the first thing you have to do is just listen. Listen what the patient says, and listen what are the first words. The most common words are, doctor, I think I'm going to fall, and doctor, I'm going to die. So these are the most common concerns of the patient. So we have to listen to the patient, and then we have to explain the concerns to the patient also. So we have to give reassurance. We have to tell them what precautions they can take, uh, like fitting a bulb on the way to the bathroom or changing the slippers, etc. And you have to explain why he has these kinds of symptoms, and you have to explain the disorder with diagrams and videos. So I know that nobody is doing this, but to gain the confidence of the patient, you have to do it. You have to teach him that, yeah, this is right-sided vestibular system, this is left-sided vestibular system, and this signal is not going because of neuritis and all. And you have to explain the disease, and you have to explain the investigations also. So just tell him why you did a PTA, why you did a WEM, or what is the role of BERA in your situation, or what is the use of VNG. Once you explain these things, the patient is more confident, and he will surely be more ready to be with you for vestibular rehab exercises. And you have to explain what you are going to do. Give them printouts for schedules, give them printouts for different exercises. You have to explain, this is mandatory, 100% mandatory, that you have to explain that their 100% participation is needed to get rid of this disorder. You have to take him into confidence. And you have to also explain that though 100% reversal may or may not happen, but significant improvement is expected, even in cases of bilateral vestibulopathy. And you have to tell him that how will you monitor the progress. You can have some scales like a balance, Berg balance scale, which is actually very good to monitor the patient and to follow up the patient. And you can also use VNG system for follow up. We can do the VNG after 1 month and tell him that, see, these values are from last month and these values are showing the better results. So VNG is also a very good device to follow up the patients. So the most of the patients which you will see will have these 6 complaints. First one is the vertigo and dizziness. Second is anxiety and depression. Third is any vegetative symptoms like nausea, vomiting. Fourth is imbalance. Fifth is disturbed quality of life. This you have to ask. And sixth is recurrences. So what we generally do is we focus on the first part, the vertigo. So we give him vestibular sedatives, we give him this and that. But if you are not treating the last 4 things, the last 5 things exactly, then you cannot expect a good result from the vestibular rehab therapy. So my opinion is give most of your time to the symptoms from 2 to 6. You can take the snapshot also. So leave vertigo on the initial few days and just work on anxiety. Just work on imbalance, the quality of life, the recurrences. This will help you a lot. Now, you have to be very familiar with them during the sessions. Ask about their job, their family, day to day activities. Tell them about yourself that, yeah, my home is this, my home is there, and I'm from this place, etc. etc. Make them comfortable. The main thing is to make them comfortable. Tell them that you understand the disease, because most doctors are lacking these things. We don't express our feelings that, yeah, we understand your disease. You know, one episode of BPPV can shatter your everything, can shatter your balance. The patient will say that everything is spinning. I don't know what is happening to me. I will die. So you have to make sure that you tell him that I know this disease, I understand this disease, and I understand what you're feeling right now. So the most important thing to do is make them comfortable and tell them that you understand the particular disease and you care for them. And you have to also see the aggravating factors. Like if the patient is having arthritis, then you have to uh, refer him to a orthopedician. Or if the patient is having hypertension or diabetes mellitus, then you have to treat that first. If the habit is alcohol smoking, then you have to stop it. And in some cases, we can also ask the patient to change their dietary habits, like drink 2 liters of water, take low calories, have a good breakfast, light lunch, etc. And we have to also tell them to control their stress, their anger, their anxiety. So in that case, Tai Chi and yoga are very beneficial. I will share the PDFs of Tai Chi and yoga also. So now, after the first session, we are actually doing the exercises. So we have divided the exercises into 3 parts. First one is in the bed, second is on the chair, and third is while standing. So first is hold your right knee against the chest for a few seconds and then extend your right leg and then repeat the same process by the left leg. Then hold both the knees to the chest while simultaneously helping with the hands. With the legs flexed and feet on the bed, rotate your hip rightwards and leftwards. You can see the images also. Similarly, lift your hip and simultaneously extend your arms over the head and then go back to the neutral position by lowering your arms along the hips. So in prone position, you have to, we call this a rocket man. So in prone position, get up to your knees and hands, extend your right arm and left leg, so opposite sides. Okay. Repeat the exercise with the left arm and the right leg. So you have to change in between. In the same position, you have to inhale and arch your spine, and while exhaling, rotate your hip inwards. So this is how to do. Coming to the chair exercises, one thing you have to be very sure that the chair is very comfortable and it has something to hold on, or the handles are very good. Don't do it in the normal Neel Kamal chairs where there are no handles. You have to do only on the chair which have handles and which don't have wheels. So the first and very simple exercise is maintain your gaze on the sticker in your front or to your left or to your right for 1 minute. Then bend down while holding the hands of a supported chair as far as possible. Similarly, look up as far as you can and until you are comfortable. Pick a ball or any object from the floor, take it up and look it. Hold it there for 30 seconds and then leave it back. Take both your arms to the nape of the neck and then press forward while resisting the movements through your head. The third set of exercise are standing on a smooth surface. So the first one is they have to stand erect. The limbs should not be limpy. The hand should be in a proper position. The head should be erect and chin should be up, just like a soldier. Second is while maintaining the gaze, center gaze, or looking at a particular point on the wall, he has to stand on one leg, then the opposite leg. Then the third exercise is take a ball. You have to look at the ball, extend your hand, and then move the ball to your front, and then take the ball from the front to the opposite side. This is the most good exercise or the most funny part of the exercise. You have to ask your patient to do a Elvis Presley like dance. So they have to do it on the right side and again on the left side. So I prefer to tell the patients that you have to do this with your grandkids. So everybody in the room will be dancing. There should be music so that we can make this more fun, more engaging, so that the patient does not feel that, oh, this is kind of awkward. Or so that's why we have to include the family members also. And if there are children, then everyone will laugh and everyone will enjoy the rehab therapy also. So this line is by Dr. Srinivas Dorasala, my mentor and my hero. So he says that you have to think big and act big. Why? Because most of the patient you see of 75 or 80 years, they will restrict their gait. So they will take short steps. The swing is not enough. They will restrict their hand movements and eventually they are always trying to hold on to something. So ask them to see a video of a soldier or the marching of army and start doing that. So they have to take big steps. The swing should be more and they have to look forward and they have to practice it. So the moment you show them this particular thing, this exercise, you can see the difference, what that they are actually happy and there is a smile on their face that, yeah, I am able to do it. Because everyone is very, uh, they're afraid of moving fast. But once you show them that they can do, then everything is very fine. So now coming to why our vestibular rehab therapy fails. Why it fails? The most common reason is the patients are not doing it correctly, or the patients are not doing it frequently, or the patients have done it for 3 days, 5 days, and then left, or the patients are having some comorbidity, or the patient is of stroke. So we have covered those things earlier. So as you can remember that there has to be a process for converting the short-term memory to a long-term memory, and that process is revision. So for our exams, what we do is we revise a lot so that all the information goes to the from short-term memory, it goes to the long-term memory. So similar thing is happening here also. So here the memory is motor learning memory, and it is mainly influenced by the power of adaptive plasticity and the cognition of the patient and the time duration for which the exercise was done. So you have to be very sure that the patient is doing exercises thrice daily, like 3 times in a day, 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening, and 15 minutes in the night. And you have to call them frequently. Sir, how are you doing? Are you feeling fine? Are you feeling giddy? So that way they are actually motivated and they will do, and eventually your vestibular rehab therapy is successful. Now coming to the third part, how to do vestibular rehab therapy using balance IVNG device. So we we have started this rehab therapy using balance eye device. So this is mainly helpful for patients who are of subjective chronic subjective dizziness, or visual vertigo, or like cervicogenic vertigo. Not exactly cervicogenic vertigo, but the proprioception mechanism is impaired in some cases. So for that patients, and for vestibular migraine patients also. So what we ask the patient to look at a dot on the screen, and the dot will move to the left, and then it will cross the midline and go to the opposite side. So initially we do it for 30 seconds, and then we can increase the time duration to 60 seconds or more. We can also do saccades for only right side of the hemifield or the left side. So we have to do it for 60 seconds. This is mainly beneficial for patients of Parkinson's, or hemiplegia, or unilateral diseases. So in that case, if we do this exercise, this will actually habituate, and the adaptation is very good, and the eye and head coordination is very good, which is required for the modification of BOR. Similarly, we can do the smooth pursuit for 60 seconds, and head tracking test, which is very similar to smooth pursuit, but in this, the patient has to move his head up and down also. Similarly, we have a smooth pursuit neck torsion test, which is very beneficial for the so-called cervicogenic vertigo causes. Then we can also ask the patient to look at the screen while we are doing optokinetic test. It actually is very essential and very good for the patients who are of like they have phobia when the a large amount of visual information is there. So in cases of visual vertigo, or motorist disorientation syndrome, or a triple PD, or multi-department syndrome, in that cases, this is actually very helpful. And we also have this subjective visual vertigo, in which we just ask the patient to look at the screen, and with a remote, they have to make this horizontal line vertical. So the background actually enhances their their disturbances, and they actually shout sometimes that, oh doctor, I'm not feeling well just by looking at this screen, and I hope all you are all right. So we can use this for training, and the results are actually very good. Similarly, we also have a subjective midpoint test, in which we ask the patient to make this vertical line come in between these two blocks. So in this, the main part is the background which is moving. So it actually makes the patient very uneasy if they are having some disturbances with the autolytic and the utricle and sacral system. So my talk is near to end. So these are the yoga exercises. You can take a uh, you can scan this code and you can download the yoga exercises from here. And we have this Tai Chi exercises. I will keep the slides open. And if you have some questions regarding the vestibular rehab therapy, you can just mail me at this email ID. And if you need the Cyclops protocol of various disorders, vestibular rehab therapy for specific disorders, kindly mail us at mbbsptech@gmail.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for an excellent lecture on various rehabilitation exercises.
Thank you, boss.
Yeah, I have given permission to unmute so that
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please, please. Sir.
interact with you. Yeah, Dr. Preeti, you can go ahead. If anyone have any queries, you can just put it up in the chat box so that Dr. Pratik will answer you.
So I think there are no questions.
No.
So can you just let me know that you understood, audience, that you understood what I was trying to say, and little bit about the mechanics of vestibular rehab therapy. Just say yes or no. Uh, Dr. Isha Tuli is asking any specific yoga exercises that should not be done. Ma'am, it depends on the condition of the patient and the diagnosis of the patient. If the patient is having a posterior canal BPPV, then you should not do any kind of yoga until the Eplise is done. And actually, I don't know very much about yoga exercises and what are the steps, but we generally recommend that breathing pattern exercise and the Surya Namaskar sometimes to the patient who are actually very fit. Those patients only we advise these exercises like yoga. Is sitting Tai Chi preferable? Ma'am, I think standing Tai Chi is better. We only prefer the Tai Chi and yoga exercises to relieve some stress, and because most of our patients are actually familiar with the yoga, with the word yoga, so they feel comfortable that, oh, okay, so doctor is saying that we should do yoga. So with few steps of yoga, we actually give them our custom made template of that particular disease, BRT.
Dr. Alok was asking, how do you diagnose a vestibular migraine?
Sir, there is it's a very long answer to give, but the patient will complain. First of all, the age. If we see, uh, most commonly she is a lady, and with the age bracket of 30 to 40 years, and it is, what is the meaning of vestibular migraine? So vestibular is only added if the patient is having some hearing symptoms or some tinnitus. So if migraine is associated with tinnitus or unilateral hearing loss, then we are actually suspecting a vestibular migraine also. The patient will also have a family history of migraine. Motion sickness will be there. There will be photophobia, phonophobia, and on VNG we can see that subjective visual vertical is deranged, and the optokinetic system, the optokinetic test is also not very well tolerated by vestibular migraine patients. So there are many other features also. So mainly these features we see.
Sir, next question is, for elderly, wouldn't standing on one leg make the patient fall?
Yeah, Actually, even if I stand on one leg, I cannot perform it for more than 20 seconds. Okay. So all the exercises, vestibular rehab exercises are to be done under the supervision of a doctor or the family member. We cannot let them stand on one leg in an empty room. So we should always stand behind him so that if he falls, we can catch him. This will, and the standing exercise is required to influence the vestibular system to send the proprioception signals to the brain and to maintain the tone of the muscles of the lower legs. So obviously, there should be someone with him.
Uh, Dr. Faisal was asking, what is the significance of exercise in supine position, like flexing the knee joint?
Flexing the knee joint. Uh, Actually, flexing the knee joint makes two improvements in the muscle tone. The most common is your trunk muscles. The second is thigh muscles. In thigh muscles also, the anterior compartment, posterior compartment, and the lower limb muscles also. So they are all strengthened up. And as you can see in all of the exercises which I have mentioned, I have not mentioned eye exercise. I have not mentioned any head exercise like looking up or looking down. The majority part of dealing with old people is to maintain their muscle strength, to enhance their muscle strength so that they can actually walk independently and they to do their daily activities without taking help from others. So by doing that particular exercise, you are actually strengthening the hip muscles, the thigh muscles, and the ankle muscles.
Sir,
Dr. Pratik, Dr.
Yes, sir.
Pratik,
Yes, sir. Hi, sir.
excellent presentation, super presentation. Okay, I just wanted to, okay, and
Thank you, sir.
the underlying basis from the molecular level onwards to the hands-on work that we need to do, everything is covered. Superb. It was very nice. So coming to that question on why, when we are all talking about standing balance and walking balance, how exercises in the bed help. One more way in which it helps is increasing the joint range of motion and flexibility, which is very important to build in the elderly, which has to be done slowly though.
Yes, sir.
Sir, thank you, sir, Srinivas, sir, for congratulating on this. We'll move on to the next question. What
Yes, sir.
suggest in Maldi department syndrome, and how do you diagnose the side in anterior canal BPPV?
First question is how to diagnose Maladie-Bachmann syndrome. It is actually a diagnosis of exclusion. We ask the patient, actually the patient history tells us about the diagnosis. The main points are that he will feel that he's swaying through and fro every time. It is 24/7. It is not going. Sometimes when he's traveling in a bus, then at that particular time he feels that he is okay. There is no swaying. But whenever he is still, then he feels that he is swaying. There may be a positive history of sea travel or a train travel or a long journey to which we can actually correlate. And we have to rule out all the other causes of vertigo and other causes of triple PD also. And the VNG will show nothing and all the examination will be normal. So it is actually a diagnosis of exclusion. So these are the points. And second thing was
What do you
anterior canal.
Yeah.
Uh, Actually, why do we need to see the side of anterior canal? Because the treatment is Yakovino maneuver, and in Yakovino maneuver, you don't need to know the side. If it is right canal also or left canal, the Yakovino will treat the same. Single maneuver for both the sides of anterior canal. So you don't have to worry about the sides. And if you want to see the side, you have to do a Dixol-Pike maneuver, both the sides, and the side with in which there is more torsional component, that side can be labeled as a the side of anterior canal. but there are not many evidence or suggestions regarding that.
Are supine position exercises recommended in young patients also, or is it only limited to older patients?
Faisal boss, these are actually recommended for everyone. Even I think I should also do these exercises because we are just laying around during this lockdown. Basically, it is very essential for older people. Yes, sir.
Dr. Alok was commenting patient will be happier to know the side even if anterior canal maneuver is the same.
Sir, as I told you, we can have a very detailed explanation about this also. But in anterior canal BPPV, whenever you are doing a Dixolpike maneuver, you will get a downbeating nystagmus. So the downbeat nystagmus is not always exactly downbeat. It is kind of torsional also. So the direction of the torsional component may point us towards the side of the anterior canal. And similarly, if we are doing the supine head hanging maneuver, you can actually see a particular torsional component. It is not seen in every case actually. So if you see a torsional component in a supine deep head hanging maneuver, then that particular side is involved, and you can uh, say that this particular side is involved 100%. So I think Dr. Alok is satisfied, or sir can email me and we can have a chat in this also.
Yes. Is there any specific exercise for Meniere's disease?
Meniere's disease, yes, we have made the protocol. Just mail me and I will send all the PDF files to you.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I think we have the end of the Q&A session.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Pratik Parwal, sir, for accepting our request to do a session on rehabilitation exercise. I think,
Thank you so much for calling me, sir.
the presentation, we have a lot of congratulatory messages from that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
We'll end the webinar for now.
Yes, sir. Thank you to Srinivas, sir, for mentoring me. And thank you so much. Thank you to all the audience for listening and for good comments. If you have anything, just email me. I will happy to help you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Srihar sir, boss,
Thank you,
for
sir.
helping me.
We have a session at tomorrow 12:30 p.m. by none other than Dr. Srinivas, sir. It is actually a follow-up of our first session, which was almost 3 weeks back. Please join us at 12:30 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, and have a good night all.
Thank you so much.